Hi. Recently, having all this time to spend at home, I've started going through a lot of my old projects, and I've started picking up a lot of things that I had worked on and never really finished. And I'm happy to announce that I will have some new music coming. I'll be releasing some of my old music, and actually that's what I'm here to talk to you about. So this is the 10-year anniversary of my debut hip-hop album, broadcasting from Channel 79. So what I'm doing here today is I'm going to do a little audio commentary for the album. We're going to play it through. I've just uploaded the entire album to YouTube. It hasn't really been available online in probably 5, 6, 7 years, and it's not really available for sale anywhere unless you bump into me. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope you enjoy the album, and I hope you enjoy the little backstage peek at what it was like to work on it. Thanks a lot. Bye. Okay, so first thing we hear here is the HBO sound from I'm sure everybody's heard it a zillion times. I'm pretty sure I probably grabbed that from a Mr. Show DVD back in the day. It's Kelly Ripa's voice. I was just watching TV and I just heard 79 was the number pick, so that seemed serendipitous, so I just dumped that down on my sampler, and basically I assembled this intro out of like kind of a sound collage. I mean, the sound here really takes me back when I was a kid. They used to run these all the time on television. I swear it was that one guy's voice that did all of them. I think I grabbed that 79 from a UFC ad. And this is my man Oblivious, Donnie Brooks, introducing me at my first ever solo show at somewhere in Foxborough. I forget it, the End Zone in Foxborough, which I don't know if it's a motor lodge or something, but that was the first time I ever had a solo hip-hop show was there. I think that must have been 2007, 6? I have no idea. Okay, so this is the first song. I produced this, though that's kind of overstating it. It's mostly built around a sample from a Letters to Cleo song, and a lot of the whole hook is Kay Hanley from Letters to Cleo singing, and then the background music is basically this guitar riff going off. So I didn't do a whole lot here. I mixed with the sounds a little bit, and I mixed with the levels, but these are a couple of my favorite verses. This verse here I used to perform on some Mike Monarchy songs. We had a song called Wild the Fuck Out that I never got around to writing to, and this was the verse I used. I like some of the wordplay I have here, and so basically, if I think back, I mean, this was over 10 years ago now, so I have a little bit of distance, and I'm not really the same person I was, so it's a little easier for me to analyze. There's a sound clip in Talladega Nights. I joke with someone that if you were to take, I kind of shot myself in the foot with this album, because if you were to take everything that was a sample that I couldn't really clear, and take that away, all you'd hear is pretty much my voice for 70 minutes. So that wasn't my most brilliant business move, but I really made this as more of a mixtape. It kind of got upgraded to an album midway through because I wanted to kind of learn how to do the process. I wanted to have something that was a really nice finished product that looked good. Because really, back when I did this, CDs were still kind of a thing, and those things mattered. And, unfortunately, I think this album, they came in the mail on a Monday, and the last Mike Monarchy show we ever did was a previous Saturday. I didn't know that at the time, but we're opening for R.A. the Rugged Man. So I never really got a chance to sell these at Mike Monarchy shows. So it was mostly over the internet, undergroundhiphop.com, and through people I met, MySpace, and my MySpace URL is on the actual CD, so that kind of tells you something. So I think some of the other samples in there there was one in there from Billy Corgan, an interview where he mentions Soma, which is sort of the origin of where the name comes from. It was my AOL Instant Messenger name, but I got it off the back of the Siamese Dream Smashing Pumpkins album by going through the song names. It's the first one they would take back in like 97 or something. Except all the other ones were taken. So yeah, I just am always kind of on the hunt for interesting sound bites that I'll just bounce down and then hopefully use later. I try to be pretty efficient that I still sometimes find scraps of paper from 10, 12 years ago that end up getting worked into something new I'm doing. So, sometimes ideas don't work back then and they work now. So I like the songs, pretty high intensity, though. You know, I think I gave the CD to a lot of people who probably didn't know a ton of rap, and I think the first song being kind of brash, I don't know, it really hits you in the face. I shot a video for this that never finished editing down. My friend Kim helped me shoot it out in LA at Runyon Canyon, and I think I have the footage somewhere, but I remember doing something stupid where I like dangled over the edge and didn't realize how dangerous it was until like after I did it. But I think the footage came out good. It just never showed it to anybody. Yeah, so it was that. Yeah, screaming fuck it. I guess I was pretty angry back then. I mean, this is sort of like, I kind of take on almost a pro wrestling persona when I rap. I think a lot of people do that. I think there's a real common Venn diagram group about people who are really into comic books, pro wrestling, and hip-hop. I think all of those are kind of about, like, putting on, like, a bigger persona than yourself, like, really amping yourself up and being bigger than who you are, just sort of putting on this disguise that helps empower you. And so I think there's a real cross-section between people who like all of those. Throughout the album, there's a lot of references to television, there's little sound bites from TV, there's just sort of commentary on media, things like that. This is one of my favorite songs. This is one people seem to respond to. My friend Pilsy produced this, though I think it's mostly just a loop from a Cypress Hill B-side or something. I think there was a Hits from the Bong live version where a loop like this played at the end, and he put that together into a beat, and I think I just tweaked the bass a little bit. But this one, he would just give me CDs back in the day with tons of beats on them, and I wouldn't even know whose beats they were. Sometimes I'd record over beats I shouldn't have, but hey, you know what you can do. Sorry about that. This one, I remember my girlfriend at the time lived in Quincy, and I was living in somewhere in Newton, and I wrote this one in my head as I was driving back from Quincy to Newton. I remember being stuck in traffic, and it just all spilled out of my head, and when I got home, I just ran in the house, and I just jotted it all down really fast. So that doesn't happen very often. In fact, songwriting is tremendously hard. I've always underestimated how difficult it is. It's when you get those moments that everything just sort of comes out, you gotta cherish them because they don't come very often, and you can't really just reproduce them. When I think about songwriting, I think about, you know, sometimes you'll be looking forward and you'll see like a little silver dot out of the corner of your eye, maybe a few little silver sparkles, and you move your eye towards it to see it, and then it moves away again. That's what songwriting is like, is that it's like you're always kind of dancing around something, and the closer you look at it, the further away it gets, if that makes any sense. And it was endlessly frustrating for me, which is one of the reasons I took so much time off of music, and I really just started doing art. Once I did that, I felt that I was really doing better on the learning curve, and I just enjoyed it a lot. It's really now that I'm going back and revisiting this stuff and, you know, having a new passion to make music again. So I performed this one a bunch of times back in the day. I probably recorded over 100 songs, probably performed about 20 to 30 of them over the course of my quote-unquote career, which was probably 5 years long. I don't remember all the dates. So this was originally supposed to be a mixtape. I think I already mentioned that. I think I was going to call it The Curse of the Blue Figurine after a kid's book. I ditched that for broadcasting on Channel 79, but that's where the album cover kind of came from, is that I kind of took this image of Tron, Tron is always one of my favorite movies. I can't say it's an amazing movie, but I've always loved it, particularly the aesthetic, so that's sort of where the cover came from. It's that superimposed with a photograph I took out the window of the W Hotel in Chicago in early 2000s when I was out there on some sort of business trip or something. So But yeah, it was originally a mixtape. I was holding back some of what I thought were my best songs, and those are some of the ones that are still going to be, I referenced later in this album that my next album, Drinking Songs for Children, was supposed to come out. I just never finished it. Life got crazy. I started doing art, started dealing with some personal stuff with my family, and I just kind of backed away from doing music. So that stuff, what I would consider to be some of my best material, I've never really shared publicly. My friends have heard it, but I plan on putting that out next year as Drinking Songs for Children. I have a few new songs I've been working on. So amongst the stuff on that, I have an unreleased song with Mac Lethal, who there's a song with him on this too, so I'll kind of talk about that when I get there. And then I've recently recorded a song with Esoteric from Czarface, so that's going to be on the album too. So you'll be hearing more of that as we get closer to it, but I think I'm going to try to shoot to have that released sometime in 2021. It might be an EP, it might be a full length, it might be 2 EPs, we'll see. So this song, this is Pilsy. Pilsy is the man. He was one of the dudes from Mike Monarchy, my last hip-hop group, and he's a really good rapper. I remember he was really influenced by Method Man and Redman. He doesn't really sound like them, but he has that same tight writing that they have, where it's like he has these really well thought out 2-4 bar things that you don't always even get the first time, but there's like one level of cleverness and there's like another level of cleverness. It's like a hat on a hat in the best way. He's a really talented dude. This beat, I think, was made by Holbrook or Mastermind right there. I think our scratch is by DJ Wise One, who was a DJ for Project Mayhem and Mike Monarchy. And I think most of the other scratches in the album are mine, but these are Wise One's. Originally, I think Judge D was supposed to be on this song, but a lot of these beats kind of floated around, and then eventually some recorded to him, and that's what it was. I think Pilsy gave me the green light, but he insisted we call the song The Lost Children of the Apocalypto, which I thought was a cool song. And I sort of built my verse coming up here off that concept of being a lost child. This is one of my favorite verses on the album. I think I performed it as a spoken word a few times, but I'd like to do it again at some point. And it's kind of about being a young guy and having like an older woman interested in you, and just the dynamic of that, and just like a kind of a transient type relationship like that. I kind of wrote it almost poetically, but it's about what the guy's perspective on that. One of my favorite verses. So it sort of plays in the idea of lost children. I think whenever you say lost children, you kind of think a little bit about Peter Pan. So I think a few sort of subtle references to that in here. And then, of course, the Lost Boys. Everybody loved that movie when I was a kid. Someone told me it doesn't hold up, but I watched it a few years ago. I think it was still pretty good. I wouldn't recommend Lost Boys 2. That was pretty rough. There might have even been a third one. Might even been a fourth one. I don't know. So yeah, I dig this. But one thing with this song that I always kind of regretted is that I never had Pilsy's verse, like just the acapella file of it. It was recorded on his roommate, I think Magoo's computer, and I think it crashed and they lost the acapella. And, back then, it was more of a pain in the ass to record stuff. And it was kind of the early days of the M-Box, which was really the home recording equipment that made it easy to do an album not easy, but made it possible to do an album like this. And we were still learning how to use it. We still didn't always have computers that were best at handling it. And that was one of the most frustrating things back then, is I felt like I was screaming at error messages more than I was making music. But in this instance, something happened to his computer and they lost it. And so I just had his verse over the beat and I recorded mine over it. So I wasn't able to mix them together. So I would have kind of liked to mix that a little differently, but I still kind of like the spacey element of it. I think I just sort of leaned into that once I realized that was my best option, because I didn't really have the acapella of both of them. But, those are problems you have in 2006 that you wouldn't really have in 2019. I mean, he probably could have re-recorded the verse on his iPhone and sent it to me in 20 minutes now, but, it is what it is. I mean, this equipment felt like such a huge step forward when we got it. These samplers, the around mid 2000s Boss stuff and Roland samplers and drum machines, I just still play with them to this day. So this There's another sample from a TV show. This is Entourage. This is Turtle talking to Gary Busey on the beach. This song is called The Deadening. My brother years ago was working on a MMA themed script that he, I think, eventually sold, and he asked me to do a couple songs kind of about MMA, like loosely, and he explained to me this concept of the deadening, which was, I guess, the idea. I don't know if this is something he came up with for a script or something that people actually do, but it was like about the idea of like hitting your foot against a piece of wood or a tree to kind of callous it so that it doesn't hurt anymore. And you know, if you were, you know, kicked a lot of people, it probably could be to your advantage. Like I said, I might be getting some of that wrong, but I wrote the song kind of in that, and it's more metaphorical. I'm not really the tree kicking type. It's about that idea of just being super, super intense, and it's more metaphorical here about I have obsessive compulsive disorder, so I tend to take a very intense approach to almost everything I do creatively. Like, it's not enough that I do one song, I have to do 10 songs. It's like I'll record it over and over again till I get it right the way I want it to, and this is sort of about the energy that it takes to summon all that up, that because it all sort of comes at a cost. Like when you have that much intensity, you end up feeling very drained at the end. And the older I've gotten, the better I've gotten at controlling it, and the better I've gotten at knowing what a realistic expectation should be for me in terms of my energy level. That's what this song is about. The other, I think I recorded 2 songs that were MMA themed. The other one I liked but didn't really fit as much in the album. I think Pillsy also made this beat. If I remember correctly, it came from some record that came from South America. He might have got it from some auction house he was working at. He always had a bunch of crazy records. But I think it came somewhere in South America, and I really wish I knew what the sample was, but I just don't. So on the off chance anyone here recognizes it, please let me know, because it'd be great information for me to have. So yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of mixed martial arts. I wouldn't say I have any problem with it. I just have never gotten that into watching it. So a lot of this stuff is maybe stuff I researched back then and then kind of forgot. And I think too, there's sort of, I'm a huge fan of the Wu-Tang Clan, especially the GZA. He's my favorite. And I think this song in general sort of was in kind of a tribute to Liquid Swords. I kind of had that quote in the beginning. You know, it's a little jokier the way I do it. Because, you know, this is sort of my Liquid Swords-y type shot at that. So I don't know how well I succeeded or there, but I guess it's my version of something from the GZA Liquid Swords album. Yeah. I always like doing a lot of this stuff where I try to end the songs differently, where I try to have different little echo effects and little trails, or just play with feedback. And I was a huge Sonic Youth, I still am a huge Sonic Youth fan, but I love the way they'd play with feedback and turn noise into sounds and music you use. So I did that a lot back then. Oh, so that sample is from the audio commentary on the DVD for Hustle and Flow. So you probably wouldn't have got that one. This track is produced by Mac Lethal, and he appears on the chorus and he recorded the verse. So thank you to Mac Lethal for doing this for me. He's one of my favorite rappers of all time. I mentioned before, I have another song with him called Bitter Pills. That's from about 2005 or 6. I met him over MySpace after watching him on Scribble Jam videos and being pretty blown away by his abilities. And I'm doing a song with him very early on that I never released anywhere. I'm really proud of it, and that'll be on Drinking Songs for Children for sure. So whenever I have a chance to work with someone like him, you really try to save up some of your best lines, and I'd say that there's a bunch on this song that I think are some of my favorite lyrics. I will say that, you know, the version of me from 10 to 15 years ago is definitely more crass than the version of me now. So I think there's kind of a sick sense of humor on this album that even when I hear now, I'm like, oh wow, that's, you know, I guess, you know, late 20s, he's still saying some wild shit, but whatever. I don't think any of it's too terrible. But So Mac Lethal, what he's pretty well known for is he, probably 10 years ago, released a YouTube video where he was rapping over a Chris Brown beat and flipping pancakes going ridiculously fast, and he got like 1 million views in one day. So I think that was one of his claim to fame. But he's had a lot of really good albums. He had a show on MTV2. He's got a good career. You know, one of those guys who's always really reinvented himself, evolved his style, and just, you can tell he puts in the time and the effort, and just really, I don't know. He's dope, man. Mac Lethal, check him out. He's got a lot of songs on Spotify. So yeah, this verse had a couple lines I like. I think I say, I could pimp my ride just by getting inside, which, you know, I mean, my ride is a Subaru, so I don't know. You can take that for what it's worth. I like that line where I say, I'm not a contradiction, I'm a contra with my diction. Like, you know, basically I'm shooting with my words. That one is one of the ones that I wrote, and I was like, oh man, glad I got that. Like, every once in a while you write one and you're just like, oh man, like, where'd that come from? Like, you feel like it tapped into something, then you start wondering if you heard it in someone else's song or something. So please, if that's the case, don't tell me. I want to believe I wrote that line. So this is coming up at the end of this track. I think the name of this beat, when Mac Lethal gave it to me, was Ira Glass. I'm not sure why, or if that has any significance to, you know, where he made it from. I never asked him where it came from. Yeah. Alright, so now we got Scams. This is a Mike Monarchy track. Mike Monarchy was the most fun I ever had making music. It was me, Pillsy, Narconics, and DJ Wise One. I still see Narconics all the time. I talk to him almost every day. Pillsy, still the man. He's making some new music now. He's making more beats. I haven't talked to him for a while, but I should hit him up. This beat was made by Lou Balls. I never knew. I think other people might have used this beat too. If I remember correctly, I did hit him up at one point on MySpace, and he said it was okay to use, but I think he went on to have some pretty impressive credits, if I remember correctly. He wasn't someone I knew personally. He was someone they all knew, all the rest of my crew knew, and I might have messed with him once or twice a long time ago, but I probably couldn't pick him out of the lineup. But I do really like this beat. We performed over a bunch of his beats for shows. This is originally over a beat that Mastermind made out of a video game sample record I gave him, but I loved the way that beat sounded, but there was no bass in it, and I thought the song needed bass. I knew we were going to perform it. This is one that I wrote the hook on. I tend to wrote a bunch of the Mike Monarchy hooks because I had the most recording equipment at the time, so I would tend to get the songs going myself and do my verse, and a lot of times a hook, and then send it to them and work with them to sort of get it done. So still a lot of them that never got finished, but we had an album, Breach, that was almost done. We sold t-shirts for it, but the album never came out. We're still still talking to Rob D about finishing that and putting it out one day, which would be cool. Nice to have that on Spotify. Those shows were fun. I used to love performing with these guys. And Nick, he doesn't really rap anymore. I mean, Narconics right here. So good. He was so talented. I remember the first time I heard him, I'm like, oh man, you got it. He's got a lot of just really natural talent. He remembers like every verse he ever wrote. Like, I don't remember half the stuff that I said this morning, and he remembers like every verse he ever wrote. It's one of those moments where you're like, maybe I don't have the natural talent for this that other people do. It's like, it's always a grind for me, and for them it's like, I don't know, a dude like him makes it look easy, even though, I know, it's not really easy for any of us. And Pillsy once again kills it here. Love this verse. Yeah. This was so much fun to perform. I think there might be some videos on YouTube somewhere of us performing this. We had a great show opening for Onyx once, and then the footage got lost, and we never actually saw it. We used to have mosh pits breaking out during one of our songs, Just Bring It. It was wild. I mean, that stuff was so much fun. I missed that. So, who knows? It could be possible. Maybe another McMonarchy show someday. Who knows, though? You'd think I'd have inside information on whether that's possible or not, but as I'm saying it now, I have no idea if it's possible. But, you know, it was So much fun. Those dudes are super talented, and I thought three of us had different styles that gelled together pretty well. So, you know, scams are on the radio. The radio is full of scams. Let's say that again. So all this music is up until around 2010. So there's nothing that came out after that. That's a sample from The Simpsons. It's Bleeding Gums Murphy in a Bill Cosby flashback, which probably takes on some extra meaning now. This is a sample of one of my favorite songs called Brain Damage. Brain Damage is All in Your Head by Blake Babes and Juliana Hatfield and Evan Dando from the Lemonheads. I'm an enormous Evan Dando fan. Like when I was a teenager, I was like, you know, my goal in life was to grow up to be him. Didn't really work out, but I'm not sure they worked out for him either. But I saw him perform last year. He's still so talented and he puts on a great show. He's definitely a weird dude. I remember he was wearing sparkly flip-flops and I think maybe a cardigan, and he took about 2 photos with people afterwards and literally just ran away in his flip-flops. You know, it was funny, but he's one of those dudes who whenever you see him, you're just like, yeah, that's a rock star. He is a rock star. Hope we get some more Lemonheads music in the next few years. And Juliana Hatfield, amazing too. She had a great memoir that came out a few years ago that I highly recommend everybody check out. So this song, I took the hook from their song, The Brain Damage is All in Your Head, and it's not only the lyrics I use on the hook, but the music here is greatly based on that, on the track itself. This is their hook. That's Evan Dando of the Lemonheads, and there's Juliana Hatfield of also the Lemonheads, like Babes. I think I'm saying that right. Juliana Hatfield 3. I don't know if they're from Cambridge, but I know they're very tied to the Cambridge music scene in the early 90s, which is, you know, obviously grew up in this area and related to it a lot. So I just love that The Brain Damage is All in Your Head. It's like when you hear that line, you know it's going to be a good song. Like, that's one that, like, yeah, I wish I thought of. But I got some cuts in here, and I think you hear some cuts from My Mind's Playing Tricks on Me, but I'm pretty sure it's not the Ghetto Boys version. I think I mixed in the Cottonmouth Kings version because I had that one on vinyl and didn't have the other one on vinyl. So I don't know. There's The Simpsons chord again. I think there's a Terry Funk chord again at the end. There's a lot of pro wrestling stuff in here, either in the lyrics or just little quotes. I always say about pro wrestling is that it's some of the worst entertainment you'll ever see and sometimes some of the best. And when it's well edited, you can really get some gems out of there. So I just pulled some random stuff that I liked and made some references, and it's just, you know, it's about having a bigger version of yourself and a kind of a fictionalized version of yourself, and that's what hip-hop's about too, so that's kind of why I probably connected with it. This song is about basically partying way too hard. I shot a video for this that unfortunately all the footage got deleted. I remember it was the day I got back from Disney World years ago, and I went right to a friend's house like a few hours after I got back and shot the video. He had this trashed basement, and I remember he had a toilet down there that was broken, and like we had this really good grungy set and shot all this footage, and then we lost all of it. None of it came out. Like I don't even know what happened. And I remember while I was shooting that, someone close to me had a pretty severe medical emergency, and I think that was one of the reasons why things pivoted and never really got back to it. That would have been a cool video. I do love this song. I mean, I love the original, and this one is a lot of fun to make. I spent a long time on it. Like, I remember there was a lot of different versions where there's a lot more sound in it. I think I went for sort of a Walla soundy, like White Album-y type thing for a while, and it just wasn't working. I got one of those chaos pads where you can sort of just mess with the sound by rubbing your hand over a pad, and kind of went nuts with it. But probably one of the longer songs in the album. See, there's a little bit of a third verse coming up, but you just, sometimes you find a topic and you just have all these ideas and you're trying to piece them together and you're like, you know, you made the beat, you can make it as long as you want. So I try not to be too constrained by the you know, whatever the classic songwriting 16 4-bar hook verse thing. I try to just do whatever feels right, but the brain damage is on your head. I think you can hear me attempting to sing there. I'm really a terrible singer. Yeah, this is a little bit at the end, and then there's a little Terry Funk quote. I can relate to that. I mean, I think I've done what I should have done a lot, but in the end, I typically always will make decisions based on happiness and not based on money. So, you know, I guess if I turn out like Terry Funk, I'll consider myself lucky. So this song is one of the big regrets in the album. This is one of my favorite beats I've ever made. This is Judge D here, but I kind of screwed up in that. So I remember I was on a business trip in Bethesda, Maryland, and he sent me his verse, and I remember being blown away by it. But I never, however I received the verse, the acapella was separate from the beat, and I never was in the room with him when he recorded it, and I never had a version where it was totally lined up correctly. So I did it on my own. And I think the first time he told me it wasn't right, then I adjusted it, and I thought it was right. And I thought it sounded dope, because I think he crushes this beat. Judge D is such a beast on the mic. Like, he was just cranking out. He was like, trying to keep up with him was what was like sort of the, trying to keep up with him was what made me better MC, because I was like, if he's doing this much music, I gotta try to do the same. And you know, he was always, I'd say, beyond my level. He was a good person to aspire to, at least in his work ethic. But I always felt bad because, so this isn't lined up the way he thought it, the way it should be, the way that he intended it to, and it never really got lined up right. So, I mean, I feel really bad about that. I wish I had shown it to him. I think I was trying to get this album out the door and just get it done, and you know, I just somehow that slipped through. So, sorry, Judge. Would love to hear it the way it's supposed to sound. I remember a few times I looked really hard because I thought I might have had, I don't know, whatever. We got me coming up here. I think I recorded this, wrote this verse a few different times. I know there's a couple of things I changed. The other rapper on this track is going to be Hush Harding. I think he was like 15 or 16 when we recorded this. He is also, this dude's been recording for years, and he's, you know, doing pretty well now. Makes a lot of really great videos. Really, really, really talented dude. And this is one of those instances where, you know, when we were in Project Mayhem, that was about 10 people. I was the oldest, and him and Maroney, who's coming up on a song, and a few were the youngest. And there was I think I was 27, and they were like 15 or 16. And getting lit up on a track by a 15-year-old definitely will check you a little bit and be like, yeah, maybe I got to work a little harder. But they were just, like, just so talented back then. Still now, but I just remember working with them and kind of being in awe, like, damn, like when I was 15 I couldn't do that. So yeah, so that's gonna be Hush Harding coming up in a minute. Definitely check him out. He's got a lot of tracks on Spotify too, and he's always doing new stuff. Talented with the videos too. Graphic design. So this is about halfway through the record. It's been a while since I've heard this. Every time I hear it, I have a different relationship with it. That's one thing too that I find very frustrating about music, is that I was thinking about this in terms of art, where like there's always a progression with art. Like if I look at the way my art was 10 years ago versus now, even year to year, like I can see that I've gotten better year to year. With music, like it's all over the place. Like just because you wrote a good song today doesn't mean you can write a good song tomorrow. Well, at least not for me. That was always a problem for me, and that like there was a consistency where, you know, I'll put my best tracks up, you know, with other people's best tracks, but like there was always a big drop for me from there, where I just, some days I had it and some days I didn't, and it was insanely frustrating. But so I think now that I do yoga and do a lot of meditation and things like that, I think I don't get frustrated like I used to, so I'm hoping that this time around it'll be a little different when I'm wrapping up Drinking Songs for Children and some other stuff that I got in the pipeline. So that was Nighttime Daydream. That's, I think, where the end of what would be side one is. This is a long album. It's 20 tracks. Third Person. This part right here was originally the hook, and then it was just two dance, and I just made it the beginning. I love the way this song sounds, and it's a beat that I made. I'd be curious to hear someone else mix it. One of the things with mixing, and it speaks to sort of what I was talking about a minute ago, but the art. With art, you usually can trust your eye. If you work on something for 6 hours, you still can usually have perspective. But like, literally, when you're recording, after a certain period of time, and it's usually not even that long, your ears get tired, and it's not even something you notice, but you can't trust them anymore. That was pretty frustrating, because it's not only are you spending a long time and not getting what you want, in the end you might not be where you think you are, because once you come back with fresh ears, and I mean that literally, like they've refreshed, they've had time away from it, and they've recovered from all the intense sound, you might hear something different. And that was really hard. It's just, and I made most of the music by myself. Like, they weren't, like, there are collaborations, but most of the mixing and the recording happened alone. So there wasn't really a sounding board. This is a pretty unfiltered, what I guess I thought hip-hop should sound like back then. But so yeah, I was really into trying to make beats out of scratches. And so I think I kind of, in this idea, I was trying to make them almost be like swinging blades that are going back and forth, where they almost sound sharp. So that's me just playing around with some different effects. I was always a big fan of how the Beastie Boys would use cheap mics, like shitty mics, and how cool it would sound, how they'd mix in different things, and it was like they kind of used their voice as a part of it was more of a part of the rhythm, and it helped to blend in even better, and they could sound totally different on different songs. That's something I experiment with a lot. This song I do a bunch of it on. Drinking Songs for Children, I do it on some songs too. You know, it's like you have all this stuff at your disposal. You have 8 zillion filters. It's like, you know, sounds make you feel something. So you find the right sound, you line it up, it can really help, you know, add impact to your song. I was pretty amped up in these songs. I can, as I'm listening to this now, I can feel myself sweating recording it. I know I probably recorded these verses 20, 30 times, and yeah, I don't know. It's odd, because like I remember doing all this stuff, but as time goes on, it just falls in a sort of a black hole where it's not like I don't remember recording it or anything, but like the details fade away. I don't always remember exactly the references that I was making. It's just, you know, it's kind of a time capsule, especially hip-hop's a lot like that. You'll make references about what's going on right now. I think, to some degrees, I think it's treated as a more disposable art form. You know, I think hip-hop artists tend to make more songs than other artists do. Like, they may make 100 to boil down to 20. The production process is probably faster, but so that might. This is a track I did with Maroney, who would go by the name Obscene back then. Remember, him telling me he didn't love the way his verse came out on this one either. He was like 16 or 17 at the time he recorded it, so he was mad young. Even back then, he was a beast. He was getting better and better, so much faster. He went on to do some good songs with Slane, and a very, very talented MC. But yeah, this is where we're starting our Project Mayhem, which was the old crew. Yeah, I made this beat too. My beats always had sort of a wonky feel to them. I didn't sample, I sampled a lot of rock music and alternative rock and stuff like that, and just try to, like, techno-y, like, it was weird stuff. I didn't do a lot of soul or funk, so I think there's a little bit more of a teenier feel to some of my beats, and I liked it. I made the music that I was into, so I'm a fan of this album. Project Mayhem. This song I would have loved to perform live, but I'm not sure that we ever did. I know there are some songs. I had a song with Maroney called Delightfully Spiteful, Me, Him, and Pillsy, that I think we did live maybe once or twice, but love that song. I don't know where that one is. I gotta dig that up, but maybe I'll throw that one up too, so people are into these, I'll release a bunch more of the old stuff. You know, I'll start focusing more time on the new stuff. It's just, with all this time on quarantine, I'm just going through all my old catalogs of art. I'm finding all this stuff, and now in the digital age, it's so much easier to pull it out and rethink it and take elements of it and throw away others and combine into something new. So it's been one of the most fun parts of having all this time at home, is just really having time to sit with something and think about it and really, you know, come up with a plan. So I'm really into efficiency in general. Like, I try to break down all my time into like these perfectly lined up Tetris blocks so that I get as much done every day as possible. So yeah, it gets a little OCD sometimes, but I guess I'm happy with the results, so I can't complain too much. This stuff can be a blessing and a curse, but the older I've got, the more of a blessing it's become. So I'm very, very grateful for that. I'm very grateful that I have a motor that just wants me to keep working on this stuff all day long. It's just, I don't know, I get so much out of working on art. It sounds almost trite, but it's a huge part of my life, and I get a lot out of it. So sometimes it's easier for me to communicate with people through my art than it is through other ways. You know, more so probably as I've gotten older as well, and you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. This is the part of the album where I start forgetting what songs come next. I'm trying to think. I always mess up these next ones. There's one with Judge D coming up. No, one with Lil Wayne. I am also, what I think you're going to see before Drinking Songs for Children comes out, is I'm working on some instrumental hip-hop albums. I have some beats that just aren't really right to rhyme over, and I'm going to be releasing those, I think, in EPs over the course of the year. A lot of it is, and I'm working on this other really big project that's taking up a lot of my time, but I need to be juggling a few things at a time. So I have a lot of things that are almost done that I'm going to just finish up over the course of this year and gradually put out. So I hope you guys enjoy them. You know, I'll get some feedback and we'll see. This is a sound clip that I found, I think probably on some YouTube video in the news or something. Alright, so there's Lil Wayne. This is a beat. This is from the song My Life by The Game with Lil Wayne on the hook. I remember, I love this. I used to be a big fan of The Game. I haven't heard a lot of his stuff in the past few years, but back then I was really into him. And I remember driving on 128 in traffic one day and hearing this song and being like, I gotta do a track over this beat. So I remember writing it in my head in traffic and then kind of scribbling it down. This was another one that came pretty quickly. It's probably not the most dramatic song. It's a little like, you know, a little intense. You know, I talk about struggles that I've had in my life. I think people who know me know that I tend to probably use humor to deflect a lot. I mean, that's probably part of my MO. This was an attempt by me to do something a little more serious and a little more personal, which you're going to see a lot more of on Drinking Songs for Children. Those songs on that album are going to be a lot more personal. I've recorded a lot of them, so I'm talking about things that exist, not things that I'm going to be doing, so. This one is really a lot about me personally, about things that I've gone through, about the struggles that I had with depression, and my weight and things like that. The second chorus, there's a line in there I get asked a lot about I said something about Mel Gibson stealing the plot from Apocalypto from my brother. So I gotta sprinkle the word allegedly a lot in there. Allegedly. There was some story my brother had gone into Mel Gibson's production company and pitched a movie very similar to Apocalypto, and then Apocalypto came out. And so I'm going to leave it at that. I don't remember exactly all the details, but I reference it here sort of to shout him out. It's just a bizarre story. And things like that happen in Hollywood, and maybe even there's two sides of that story. So allegedly. So there's that. Yeah, there you go. I mean, it's like there's always taking an opportunity to slam Mel Gibson's almost too good to pass up. I mean, I wouldn't say his track record on everything has been fantastic. That, if it was Tom Hanks that stole it, maybe I wouldn't have, allegedly, maybe I wouldn't have gone at him, but, I guess that was my hot take from back in 2008. There's another real hot take coming up in the last verse where I say something about, in hip-hop, you really, some people use ghostwriters, but you really should be writing all your own lyrics, and it's, when someone doesn't and they get exposed, I think they definitely lose some respect. And they're not seen as a contender for really talking about who the top MCs are. And not that I'm even anywhere near that list, but just explaining what's coming up here. We're all huge fans of Dr. Dre, but the rumor is that, Dr. Dre doesn't write a lot of his lyrics. I think there's a rumor that MF Grimm wrote a lot of the lyrics on The Chronic, and then, there have been tracks that have been, leaked where you hear that Eminem is recording Dre's verses to show him where to put it. So, most likely Eminem wrote those lyrics, so who cares? It's Dr. Dre. But this is sort of just about how people can be a little contradictory, that, you might crap on some people for doing that, but some of the legends kind of did it too, and not that I'm thinking we should be storming Dr. Dre's house with pitchforks or anything, but it's like, when you're Dr. Dre and you've done what he's done, you can kind of do what you want too. So, I think when you talk about Dr. Dre, he's almost like a hip-hop Quincy Jones, so I always wonder the stuff that he's recorded that we're never going to hear that's stuck in a vault somewhere, but, maybe someday. So, I also, I mentioned in this song that I'd never heard a Lil Wayne song, which was true. Still barely heard any Lil Wayne music. I've gone back to listen to a little, not a huge fan, but I some songs I kind of like, but back then he was really not respected as being a big MC, so I almost felt myself defending the fact that I was putting him, you couldn't get the beat without him on the hook, that was the only instrumental available, because I probably would have liked to have done my own hook on that, but I just couldn't find it, so that's why Lil Wayne's on there. There's a track with me and Oblivious. I remember we did this track very quickly. I remember him calling me one day when I was at my desk at work, maybe 2007 or something. He's like, yo, let's do a fist up type song. And I'm like, yeah. We get that call from Oblivious, you go for it. I remember I wrote my verse really fast. He wrote his verse really fast, and it was done in 2 or 3 days. And it's just, when you're going with Donnie, he's really so good at this amped up stuff. He's so freaking talented. The guy's voice is like an instrument. He's recorded, I think, 2 of the best songs that a friend has ever done. People that I kind of came up with and recorded with. He's done 2 songs that I think are just phenomenal. I have a lot of talented friends. They've done a lot of great stuff, but 2 songs in particular by him: Controlled Demolition, especially the original version, and Dope Era. I listen to those on repeat. I can't just listen to them once, and it's just the language he uses, the intensity, and just if you know him at all, you know he means it. There's only the earnest Oblivious. That's the only version of him you get, which is great. So, love having him on this album. He adds this instant intensity. So, this cut that I did here is from Gridlocked Soundtrack, which is the Tupac and Tim Roth movie that came out about a week after Tupac passed away, and I'm cutting up one of the songs. So here's Oblivious. He's got this snarl to him that's just, love it. He showed no 2009. Yeah, so this was probably even recorded a couple years before the album came out. So this, I think it's before, probably around 2007. This is an old track, but he's still at it. He just released an album. I think Woke is what it's called. It's dope. He's a talented dude. Smart dude. Got a lot of interesting ideas and Rev Rags. Yeah, so that was back in the day. There were some dudes making some clothing lines that we sell to Project Mayhem shows called Revolution Rags. That was the name of the company they had. So they made some cool designs. I got a bunch of those around somewhere. We really went for it back then. We really tried to cover all the bases. These dudes like Oblivious, Maroney, Hush, Judge D, they've really pushed me, just like friendly competition, just, I don't know, it was great working with them. Like, I miss it. I think, to be honest, they're better than me at this stuff. Like, they have, sometimes I feel like a fraud on songs with them. So this is another pro wrestling reference. This is a clip of the Hardy Boys. Probably my favorite wrestling tag team of all time. If you've never seen Jeff Hardy wrestle, just Google Jeff Hardy ladder match and you're going to see some crazy stuff. Even if you're not into wrestling, it's worth taking a quick look at. This song, the song I did with Judge D, I remember I made this entire beat on my little Boss sampler. The bass is from a Chili Pepper song, I think from the One Hot Minute album, the first one with Dave Navarre. I forgot the song, but if you know that album, you might know it. So the idea for this song was that there'd be two verses. I have the first one, then Judge D has the second one. And I do my verse from the perspective of someone who's super, super right-wing, trying to influence your vote. And then Judge does his from the opposite perspective. If anyone knows me, I'm a lot more liberal than conservative in general. So I'm sort of taking on a persona here. So is Danny. I mean, I don't think you should really assume anything we say in this song is a true political piece. And obviously, too, it's a really old song. This is like Bush era stuff, the second Bush. So, we were all pretty pissed back then about what was going on. I mean, who knew what was in store for us? I guess I'll just leave it at that. But, yeah. This was one too that I remember we performed this a lot of times. Seemed to be the one that he liked the best out of our collaboration, especially when it came to performing. That and Reverse Vampires was produced by Raw One, which isn't on here, but that's got to get out on Spotify. Raw One really did a great job mixing that. I think I had a YouTube video about how to build a beer pong table with that song in it, so if you feel like checking that one out, go listen there. It's just, the dude who played guitar in that totally slaps, so. Yeah, so play with a little bit of lightning thunder sounds here. I mean electricity sounds, what I'm talking about. Well, here comes Judge. This dude's voice is just so powerful. That was one thing too that I noticed, is that back then, people like Judge would come over and record in my house, and like I'd literally see the sound waves that appear on the Pro Tools. You look at his compared to yours, you can literally see the fullness in his voice. Like, wow, his sound waves are bigger than like, they're fuller, and he's just, just natural talent mixed with hard work. That's a deadly combination. So he put out an album a few years ago with DJ Daredevil. I got it on vinyl. I played it so many times when I got it. It was so smooth. He really nailed it from all angles on that one. So I think that one's on Spotify too. If you look him up on Spotify, look up Judge the Disciple. There was another Judge D who I think was down with Cottonmouth Kings, so he switched up to Judge the Disciple as time went on. So at least that's my understanding of it. So. Yeah, this is fun. Yeah. I'm recording this commentary on the same equipment that I recorded a lot of my music on back then. I mean, some of it's a little upgraded, a little bit newer. I don't know if you'll notice a little bit, but this cut out a few times, and I had to sort of stitch it together just because I kept getting these error messages, and I didn't know what they mean. This is a spoken word that I wrote, and this is one is more closely tied to the theme of the album of television and just media. This one, I think I performed a few times as spoken word, and I remember I learned it again earlier this year for something that I planned on doing that ended up not happening, so this one is still locked in the chamber somewhere. I'll probably perform this. I'm trying to get out more and do, I mean, obviously now we can't, but I'm trying to kind of get more in front of the mic in public, 'cause it's been a long time, and I'd like to do a few shows once I release the album next year, you know, assuming that that's something that we can do. But, so this one, I have a lot of like little sound effects in the background. My man Rob D, who helped me learn a lot of mixing, he mixed My Life, and I think that's why it's one of the better sounding songs of the album. He recommended I kind of do a cool animation, like video for this, where I play with all the sound clips and different representations of them. And back when he recommended it, I just wasn't capable of doing it, but it just occurred to me again recently, the idea, and now I think I probably could do it. So I'm going to keep that in mind, and you might see a video for this at some point. Kind of depends on, you know, I have so many ideas, I can't do all of them, and I fall in love with them, then forget about some and fall out of love with them, whatever. But this is one I do like, and at some point you may see some sort of animation video for this. Stay tuned for more transmissions. Yeah, as I'm thinking about now, I'm getting excited about it, so we'll see if that ever happens. I had recorded a commentary track for this album years ago, which I just listened to before I did this, because I wanted to remember, back then I wanted to remember what happened with this stuff, just for my own benefit. I talked a lot on that about stuff that I was going to do the next few years that didn't happen at all. I'm not going to be releasing that one. But now I'm a little better at seeing things through. Pretty much finished almost everything I started, unless I really lose interest in it or it just isn't what I thought it was. But these days, if I say I'm going to do something, it ends up getting done for the most part. So this is Ron Burgundy. This is there was a second movie they made from cut footage from the original Anchorman that I think was only released back then on a DVD disc 2 from Walmart. So I liked this quote from it. He's rambling like he does. It's a great character. He's got a podcast now where he does it all in the Ron Burgundy character, and it's brilliant. So Lewis Black. This was a promo for Drinking Songs for Children, because originally that was going to come out the year after this, and like I said, a lot of the music was recorded, it just never got finished, never got put out there, and just life took over and art took over. And that's what this track was, is they're Drinking Songs for Children. Drinking Songs for Children. Yeah, so let's hear what I say here. 2010, yeah. This is 2020. It is it's still coming, not here yet, but it looks like 2021 will be the year, one way or another. Like I said, it might be an EP, which means that if that's the case, then I already have half it recorded. I'll finish up a couple songs, put it on there. We'll see. I mean, Ants. So this is a song that I probably would have taken off if I were to do it again, but it's a personal favorite, but I don't know if other people are into it. There's a Johnny Cash sample. I forget if the beat, I think, probably comes from Johnny Cash too, but the vocal stuff there definitely does. This is just playing off this idea that I heard Joe Rogan talk about, where he said that if you were an alien looking down at Earth, everything you see that was that was built by man or is man was a fungus. That basically we're just like a big fungus on the Earth, and almost just like ants, just like we're that insignificant. And that, it's the idea of taking a really far look back at humanity and just going, what are we really doing? We're just really a bunch of neurons and protons bumping into each other. Another hot take. That's sort of what this song is about, is just that idea of us just being like always on the move and always going 1,000 different directions. This song, I don't know I think there might even technically be some issues with it where I don't know if the beat is actually looped right. Like, I don't know if at the end of the 4 there's really a full beat there. I think there's a slight lag, but I always kind of liked it. Like if you hear where it ends there, it kind of just comes in a little later than you would think. But this is one of the songs I did where there's really no chorus in the middle. There's kind of a chorus on either ends, I believe. I just like sort of going wild sometimes, and I was probably going a little too fast in this because there's some wordplay in here I like, but I think it gets lost just because I'm going really fast. And that was one of the biggest recommendations I got from people is slow it down so you can hear your lyrics more. And the stuff I'm working on now, that's sort of, for some reason, in my head, rapping fast seemed very important back then, but I think it was just the time people were into that. Like it was sort of the way to show that you were technically proficient, but sort of the hot thing at the time. But rapping well is probably more important than rapping fast. And then also recording something that you can perform at a show. Like you don't want to record something that is a lot easier to do in a studio than it is to perform, because performance is a big part of the art of hip hop. So. I guess don't stop me in the street and ask me to spit the verse from Ants, because it's probably not going to happen. Sometimes you gotta take a chance, though. Here comes Johnny Cash, second time around. Well, there it goes. Let's see. 3 songs left? 3 or 4. So this is Forest the Trees. This is also this is probably the most personal song on the album. It's about a family member who had some fairly serious issues. It's a song that people always say to me, the one you sing on, oh, I have a horrible singing voice, and I don't consider what I'm doing here singing almost flattered to think that somebody would think I'd be able to do that. This is actually why I became a rapper, is because I can't sing. I mentioned before that I wanted to be Evan Dando, and when I was in my early 20s after college, I decided, alright, I got my guitar, I'm going to learn how to sing, I'm going to write some songs. I got a cassette 4-track, and we're going to do this. So I took some voice lessons from a woman on, it was on Mass Ave, right across from Berkeley. I remember I was like 22, and she was, I think, 32, 33, and she looked and acted so much like Phoebe from Friends. And I had a girlfriend at the time, someone that I was really into. And I kept going back for lessons, and I was not getting better. I was frustrating. I couldn't get, I might even be tone deaf, I don't know. And then on my last lesson, I had mentioned that my girlfriend and I had broken up, and I was oblivious, and she kind of like hit on me. She was like, oh, really cute, and told me all these things. And I was, at that age, I was oblivious that any older, attractive woman would be interested in me. And I didn't even notice that she hit on me until 2 days later. So it was awkward, but I didn't realize it was awkward because I guess I turned her down without even knowing it. So, but the real point of the story is that I guess obviously she kind of liked me. And she kept telling me I was getting better week to week. And I was like, yeah, I don't really seem like I am. And I'm like, oh, that might be why she told me I was getting better week to week. So that was the end of my singing career. I decided we're going to rap then. I was like, all right, well, the only group I liked as much as the Lemonheads was the Beastie Boys. So I'm like, all right, the Evan Dando route didn't work. So let's see if we can get the MCA Ad Rock Mike D route to work. So you can see the row of Grammys behind me right here. I really cleaned up. But watch that Beastie Boys documentary, Apple TV. That just came out the other day as I'm recording this. Yeah, today's May 28th, 2020, just for the record. But that Beastie Boys documentary it's so good. But this song, I remember I was in DC on a business trip, and I was writing it on the way home, and I came home and just banged it out. And I recorded it. I remember I did a lot of takes on this, and I had a lot of takes, and I just really pushed the limits of what my computer could hold in terms of just in its memory. But yeah, I'm proud of this one. I'm definitely proud of this one. I think the beat was made by Mastermind, and Cozy kept telling me what the sample was from. I think he said it was from something I never heard of, and he kept saying it to me like it was something I should have heard of, and I remember being like, I'm gonna feel stupid if I ask them what that is, but it was like Black Snake Moon or something, or Snake River Canyon. If either of those mean anything to you, you know what that beat is from, loop me in. Or Pilsy, if you hear this and you remember and wanna tell me, just feel free to hit me up. It's good to hear from you anyway. That sample of the Bye Bye is one of my favorite movies of all time, called All That Jazz. It's from '79, the year I was born, and it's with Roy Schneider from Jaws, and it's a musical, and he plays a guy who's putting on a dance production of a musical, and his life is just falling apart from drugs and sex, and it's just, but it's so well shot, and the music and the dancing is so awesome. It's so on point with the story, and it's just one of my favorite movies. And it's a Bob Fosse movie. It doesn't get talked about a lot these days. I don't really see it on Netflix that often. I just actually picked up the Blu-ray over Christmas. It took me a while to find it, but I highly recommend checking it out. It's a spectacular movie that you don't really see. Like, it's a dark musical. Like, it's dark. So it was appropriate to use it for a song like this called I Don't Fucking Care. I remember I wrote this song on a business trip when I was at the Ritz-Carlton in Florida, and I was at a conference, and a lot of that stuff is just hurry up and wait and stand around. This was in maybe 2005, 6, and I remember I had just the words, I don't fucking care, man, I don't fucking care, going through my head for days at a time, and I was mumbling it and saying it to myself, and then eventually it became a song. So that's how something you mumble under your breath turns into a song once you have enough time alone with it. But this song is really about that, just going through some tough stuff, and just, it's kind of about heroin. A lot of, there's a lot of heroin problems in Massachusetts, and, I spend a lot of time in, areas where that was, worse than it was in places I grew up with, back when I was writing this music, and I was seeing it a little more upfront than I had before, so... I have empathy for people who have had to deal with those issues. It's incredibly hard, and this song is sort of about that. It's about reaching that point where it's like, almost like the cockroach level, where it's like, you're almost like too tough to die, and as you put yourself through a lot, and it's like, this song is almost about being like a cockroach, like metaphorically speaking, not like Kafka-esque or anything, whatever. I don't know. I haven't watched all that. I got that DVD for All That Jazz a few months ago around Christmas, but I haven't watched it yet, so that might be this weekend. Excited just thinking about that. But I also realized that when I built the file to do this commentary, I left the song Scams out by Mike Monarchy, so I'm gonna have to cut that in. Oops, we'll see if that's obvious later, but I guess you would have already heard that by now. I like some of the wordplay in this song. Like, I think the first line I really liked, and it was, I just puked on the line between use and abuse. And I don't know, I remember a coworker of mine that heard that, and they're like, like, I don't know, I thought it was witty, but like, it's, I try not to, I've always straddled this line between the corporate world and like the art world, and I try not to censor myself too much. I try to be the regular me pretty much everywhere I go, so, I think people get that music is a blown-up version of reality, and even a blown-up version of not even your own reality. Sometimes somebody else's. Sometimes you're embodying somebody else in your song to make a point. It happens a lot in rap music. Just like in country, not everybody's had a zillion dogs die. But yeah, definitely a lot of F-bombs in this album too. Then I think what's coming up next is also something like my childhood. There's that end of the day music they used to play. TV stations used to go off the air in the middle of the night. They wouldn't show stuff because nobody was watching, and they'd have this end of the day announcement. And it sounded like this. That doesn't really happen anymore. I think now they just run like infomercials for ShamWows or cutting your own hair stuff. I don't know. This is the last song on the record. The original idea for this beat was that everybody in Project Mayhem, all 9 or 10 of us, were going to record as long as we wanted on this beat, just loop it until we're done, and then put them all together for one big song. I don't think that ever happened. I'm not even sure everybody even knew that. It's like communication was not amazing among the crew on all this stuff. But I remember I did it, Aztec did it, and other dude Illusionist did it. I think a few others might have. I remember Aztec, when he did it, he put his as a bonus track on his album, which is why I did it here too, because I thought that would be a good idea. And then, I don't know, maybe others might follow suit. Who knows? There's more ideas and there's time to kind of deal with it. But I like the song. I wrote some of this actually on a business trip as well. I remember being on a train going between Philly and DC or something, working on this. A few lines in here I like. When I see a girl I dig, I always go and tell her, then we disappear in thin air just like Penn and Teller. Or I grab a pen and tell her, then disappear in thin air just like Penn and Teller. Which I was like, I like that. But yeah, this is just more of a catch and wreck one. I like the beat, I like the way it bounces and stuff, so this is a fun one. I think this might be more about as fast as I really should go on my verses. So you probably won't hear much faster than this on the new stuff, because this might sort of be my sweet spot. Yeah, there it is. So yeah, that's the album. Really appreciate you listening, and I look forward to having more stuff to share with y'all, and